Hello and welcome to this online training where we are going to introduce you to SmartAfriHub, and we are going to talk about data needs and what data are available specifically for Africa. My name is Lilian. I'm going to be your host today, but I have a whole panel of experts that will explain and tutor you for the online training. We have a lot of attendees today, and thank you so much for your interest in this online training. This will last for about 2 hours, and we have divided it into 3 sections. The first section is dedicated to data needs, and we invite you to join us in discussing what you need in your work, and to help us complete a survey, to complete our input to future Earth observation programs such as Copernicus. So that's part of, just to make you, give you a sort of a motivation to engage with us with respect to data needs. Then we will introduce a new tool, a new mapping concept that any citizen can use. So citizen scientists, listen to this, because there's a new concept that will be introduced today. And then finally, the final section will be about the SmartAfriHub and the different tools we have. All free, open source, everything is free and open. That's the mantra that we are living by now. And you will get step-by-step introductions, also using QGIS and a plugin for QGIS in particular. It will be a lot of information for you to consume, and it's 2 hours. So one of the things I will start with then in this housekeeping session of the training is to encourage you to use the chat box. We have a chat box where you can ask questions, where you can comment, and we will answer the questions in between the presentations, but we will also have different sessions where we can discuss more deeply, and that's where you also can be invited into this webinar room. And but what is needed for you to be able to enter here is the following. You need to have a Chrome browser, you need to have a webcam, you need to have a headset like we have, and a good internet connection, and a freshly rebooted computer, so to get rid of all the mess that's gathering it on a computer before you reboot it. So that's what you need. If you have that, you can raise your hand. You will see on the side here that you can raise your hand, and we will invite you to join into the room for a discussion, for questions and comments that you might have. On the back side here, I have help to do the hosting, and that's Hanna Kobrikova. She will provide you with links that we are mentioning. There will be some material, there will be some video, so keep an eye on the chat box for that material as well. And please ask us if there's something we've forgotten about. We might be able to pop that up during this online training. So I see that we have 4 of the speakers. We are more people that will join us during these 2 next hours. So I see that we are getting people in here, but in order to get more people in very quickly, we will do a weather report. And that's how we will invite you to start to use the chat box as well, and give us a weather report from where you are. We are so many registered, we're several hundred. So I'm sure it will be an interesting weather report we get today. So I will start with you, Karel, and you will get introduced to the speakers shortly. Just wait for it. But first we will do the weather report. Karel, can you tell us what the weather is?
In the Czech, we have a very nice spring day, something like 18-20 degrees, so very pleasant day. I think that this weather report is very important because, as we will discuss probably today, seems that weather and climate is one from the most hot topics for Africa.
Absolutely. So we are helping. Runar, where are you, and what is the weather like where you are?
I am in Brussels, and the weather here is a great deal better than our freedom of movement would suggest nowadays. It is a very beautiful spring weather, I have to admit, but it's not something we're presently allowed to avail ourselves of.
No, unfortunately, normally we hear about the rain in Brussels, and now it's nice weather. Yeah. Okay, Tuula, where are you, and what's the weather where you are?
I'm in Finland. Very nice place, Lahti, in the middle of the Finland, actually. The weather, very nice. Sun is shining, no raining, no snow, which is a good news. And actually, it's a noisy weather. A lot of birds. And that's nice. Spring is coming.
Yes, lovely. And Raitis, where are you, and what's the weather like where you are?
I'm currently in Latvia, and well, yeah, the weather here is also very nice. Birds are returning from the southern lands, as they are calling them, and it's almost a shame to be in home.
Yes, indeed. I can second that, because, well, where I am, I'm just a little bit northwest of Oslo now, and we have such a lovely spring weather. It's well, yesterday it was 18 degrees, and I think we are looking to something similar today. Almost no sky, clouds on the sky, and the birds are singing. Indeed, it's almost noisy, as Tuula said. So, with that, now you've heard our weather report. Please let us know what the weather is like where you are. I see we already got some input here from Brazil, from Nigeria. Lovely to see you all. I'm so excited to see where all of you come from today. Okay, and the weather report. Now, we will do a tour de table with the people that are here. They will give a short introduction to who they are and what they are doing. But before that, I will also like to say that this online training is part of two Inspire hackathons. We have the Kampala Inspire hackathon, and we have the Dubrovnik Inspire hackathon going on right now.
Unfortunately, we will not go to Kampala and not to Dubrovnik. Yes.
No. So we will travel only virtually in our minds. So that was, of course, because of the virus that and the pandemic that happened, unfortunately. But all the same, we can enjoy this the images from those places. Anyways, this online training is actually a part of these hackathons, and they are a joint effort by many organizations like FAO, GODAN, Plan for All, whom I'm representing, Club of OSIAC, and many more. And we will share the all the sponsors in the chat box. We will have a file where you can see that. I might also mention them during this online training, so that you get to know who is behind all this work that we are doing. Okay, with that, I think we can start with doing a presentation. Karel, of course, we have to go to you first. We call Karel the godfather of the Inspire Hackathon concept. So, Karel, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, I am already old man. Yes. Now in my house I have two granddaughters. Yes, with me. Fortunately, now they are sleeping, so not disturbing. My background is computer science and mathematics, but I am almost all my professional life working with people from agriculture, rural development, and the main topic are geographic information system. Now, some years ago, many years ago, I was developer. Now I'm mainly speaking, not doing anything. Yes, and this Inspire Hackathon we start to do to connect people, because we see as important to transfer experiences, transfer knowledge. In many projects, after end of the project, results disappear, and we are trying to protect this and bring these things to the people. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. So, Runar, how about you?
Well, I am a Norwegian, exiled in Belgium, en route back from the Arabian Peninsula, where I spent many years. So I'm comparatively much closer to home now than I used to be, but still a great deal further than my family in Norway would have appreciated. At least this is what they tell me by phone. I live there, things might be very different. I am quarantined like everyone else in Belgium, not quarantined, but let's say under severe movement restrictions in Belgium. So I'm sitting inside enjoying the nice weather here, cooped up with my son, whom I have sedated with cartoons for the duration of this thing. I am a spatial planner by origin and drifted into technology and maps because I found this, well, I should probably say that I found it useful in my profession, but the truth is probably that I found it more interesting than my profession. And as a consequence, I stayed there. Working as a consultant in an IT company that has a research and development wing, of which I have been named the director. So I'm Belgian-based, but Norway employed. And yeah, this is me.
Yes. Wonderful to have you here, Runar. Now, Tuula, a few words about you.
Few words about me. Yes. Personally, I'm an engineer. So industrial engineering is my original profession, and I have been at industry almost 4 decades. 36 precisely altogether. So that means that I have been working at industry and working for the industry, and that has been my interest. Processes, value chains, improvement, continuous improvement, transactions, that has been my life. But for some reason, recently I have been dealing with agriculture and rural development. And I wonder every day how it happened, but this is life.
You met me.
Yes, I met you. That was the reason.
I was going to say that. I think we are all the victims of Karel's recruitment.
Yeah. Yes. You make new careers for us.
Yes, Karel.
Yes.
You are very inspiring to us, convincing us to go into this. Yes.
But I feel quite comfortable because I feel that I can use my industrial know-how in this value chain, which is about food, and this is very challenging indeed. So that's about my profession. Otherwise, I have 2 kids, husband, dog, and too much housekeeping. So that's it.
Housekeeping, yes.
Yes.
Okay, Tuula, we will hear from you very soon. Now, Raitis, a few words about you too.
Well, I'm a Latvian and working most of the time from home, and sometimes traveling for project meetings, which Karel is organizing for me. And my background is I'm a software engineer, and during masters I was also studying a little bit of GIS and was starting to develop some interest in it, and I like visual things. So something like 6 or maybe 7 years ago, I developed this mapping application, Aegis Layers. So became the lead developer there. And yeah, since then, work has been continuing in that front.
Excellent, and we will learn more about that later today. So, and after Tuula's introduction, I will probably share a few pieces of information about the possibility of getting data from the group on the Earth observation. My background is astrophysics. So what can you say? Now I'm focused on the planet, and I normally say I don't discriminate against any of the planets. So my focus is now on planet Earth. And like the rest of us here, we have been very, very inspired by cattle. So that's why we are joining this community. This community about open data sharing and open data policy, which is also very close to my heart. The other speakers that you will meet later today, obviously, you will have to wait to learn more about them. But before, so now we are ready to the first session, and Tuula will kick us off. I will recommend, though, that this is going to be, for you to get the optimal out of this, I recommend that you have something to drink, you turn off all the other disturbances, no multitasking, and maybe visit the restroom before you really sit down, so that you are all focused on getting the best out of this training. Okay, Tuula, I think we are ready for you. And while she's, we will turn off our cameras, but we will not disappear, I promise. We will turn off cameras and sounds. And thank you for, I'm seeing, let us know, I see some of you are providing information of what you do. That is super interesting. Please let us know what background you have. That's also super interesting. Thank you.
Shall I start?
Yes, please go ahead and start sharing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a moment. Sharing would be a nice idea, I think.
You find the right screen?
I'm trying.
Yes. And we see your snow again. It's a good sign. And here you are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Okay. Dear friends, I'm going to talk you about observations and insights which I got when I was a mentor of one of the Inspire Hackathon challenges. The challenge is number 2. The name is for that SmartAfriHub. And the title of this presentation outlines what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about agriculture, Africa, data, and R&D, research, development, and innovation. A few words about this challenge too, SmartAfriHub. We didn't have a sort of defined problem beforehand. We have a tabula rasa. We have an opportunity to invent our problem ourselves and start to solve that problem. So we had to start talking. That was our first thing to do. In this corona situation, we had slight problems to find a right channel, how to communicate with these registered partners for this challenge too. There were 60 registered partners, and we tried different channels, for example, email, Skype group, and Zoom also in one point. But eventually it appeared that WhatsApp solution, application, was the best one. And we used that. This is our way to talk. So fingers have been working a lot during the last month. The WhatsApp group was established in the end of March. And since that, many people have been joining us. We have now 32 members in that WhatsApp group, and it's growing every day. We have partners there from different countries, from Africa, from Europe. And I have enjoyed a lot for this discussion, because we have cool guys and we have expertise. We have expertise of agriculture, of soil, ICT, meteorology, economics, big data management, and a lot of other things of which I have no idea. The image on the right side, it's a text cloud of the WhatsApp discussions. Do you notice what we have been talking about? Of course, we have been talking about agriculture, farming and farmers, Africa, and data. It was the main issue all the time. We talked about data, how to get it, where is it good, is it bad, do we have enough data, do we have access to data? And that has been the main topic. And that's why I'm now talking about cornerstone of data in research, development, and innovation. We also thought a lot and talked a lot about weather. That was the second biggest topic, data and weather. We also talked about water. That was one main issue. And water and weather, they are linked to each other. So that was our topics. Well, as we are talking about hackathon, we have to identify some kind of problem that we could work on. We need to frame for our talk. And in the very beginning, end of March, Mr. Ronald, a meteorologist from Uganda, stated these three main questions, of which Africa farmers are all the time considering. When to plant, what to plant, and where to sell. And these three questions have been really the guideline for our discussion for the last month. I thank Ronald for these great questions. Without questions and problems, we don't have any choice to move on. Well, we were discussing about this when to plant issue quite a long time, actually. And then one day, Mr. Simon von Kerkhoff, an economist from Belgium, jumped in our discussion. He had followed us silently for a long time, a couple of weeks, and he said that maybe this kind of a little exercise is now in place. And he made one day work, make some state-of-art study, and came out of the room, so to say, hit the nail on the head and said to all of us, if we want to create original content, make something different, make something unique, and find answers to Ronald's fundamental questions, we need data. At the moment, there are no data, so we have to find the data. That is the first problem to solve. So that was our mission, find data. And I explain a little bit more what kind of data we are talking about. Simon and some other guys define it together, what kind of data is needed. And the left side of this slide explains the different kind of layers we were thinking about. Economic layer, what is the income, what is the yield, what is the money which is going around farming. And we were trying to find the data from Nigeria. Farms layer data from Kenya. What kind of farms they are, what are their size, how they are owned, where are they, how many these are. This kind of very ground level, low level data, actually, but critical one. The third layer is weather layer, right to say, from Uganda. To be able to make short-term predictions for daily operations for farmers and to be able to make long-term predictions for planting opportunities, to give the farmers the information they need to make right kind of farming decisions. The fourth layer, agronomic layer from Burundi. about soil, about water, about fertilizers, cost of the production. Aren't they quite important for agriculture? Aren't they? But unfortunately, in this situation, we did very much work. The guys were working for finding these sources, but we didn't succeed very well. I know that Corona has impact on that, but it is not easy to find good data from these countries, at least. So this small experiment showed that it's difficult. Imagine if we had found this data, we could have been opportunity to create original content which is meaningful for the farmers. Something which is very local, addressed to the certain farmers of certain region, and it could help the farmers to make the right decisions. What to plant, when to plant, and perhaps also where to sell their products. But we are working on this. We are not in the close of the, or in the end of the hackathon yet. Based on these observations and discussions with the Challenge 2 group, I wanted to make some kind of a conclusion of my feelings at this moment. I think that there should be a two-way approach, bottom-up, which means that there is evidently small-scale data collection. It's must do. You have to do that anyways. There is no options. You can use existing data, or you can collect your data yourself. Or you can use free and open data, for example, Copernicus, of which we are going to hear more today. This is sort of bottom up. Everybody can do that as a researcher. But this is not enough, because we can't get any power and scaling with this style. We need top-down approach as well, which means that there is a national and regional policy and strategy which will help and advance the digital transformation process. And the aim is to use open data as much as possible. And at the same time, take care of that personal data is used in fair way. My data is important, so be careful with that. The top-down approach includes also the cooperation of research, education, and governmental institutions. Academy, administrative guys, important people and important institutions should work together to find open data and open it in easy way to agriculture community. And we all need capacity building. The aim is that there will be first fair data economy that will support research, development, and innovation actions in long term. That would be so cool. So that was my message, and the last slide is about SmartAfriHub. This might be some kind of node to transfer knowledge, and it is. It transfers knowledge. There are tools, there are applications, and there might be also data in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tuula. Very interesting indeed to learn about your experience from the work so far in this hackathon. Are there any questions to Tuula directly? I see that there has been some questions in the chat box. We are trying to keep a track of that. I think I saw a question. I don't know if we might be able to answer that very quickly now, but there was something about Kenya. Yeah, Sylvia is asking, who is the person in charge of Kenya? May I please be able to get their contacts? I have an idea I can share with regards to the data. Now, so Sylvia, I will ask you, Tuula, or the others who might know this from the work, but it might be something that we could discuss in the discussion section as well. Yeah, Tuula, do you know this person or?
Yes, I know this person, Samuel, but the last name, I don't remember.
Okay.
If Samuel is there or anybody of the Challenge 2 group, please remember this question. Yes.
Yes. So now we hear that. So we might come back to that because it's interesting for us to to get an overview who is have some data and can help us coordinate everything. Okay, anything else? For those, just a quick comment on the connection and seeing the blur. It's some of you see some blurry pictures. It's probably the connection on your side. Try to reboot your computer and come back, close all the windows that is not necessary for you to have open, and see if that helps. Every often that is the case. Is it possible to have a list of agricultural data? Have you discussed AG data? I assume that's agricultural data. Have you discussed this? I mean, we will show some data resources immediately after this presentation by Tuula, but have you discussed this?
Do you ask me?
Yes, Tuula.
No. We have not discussed in that manner so that we could have a full list of agriculture data. Yes.
Yeah.
No, not yet. But this is a good question because we need some institutions to join in that discussion. They have data, and this is policy. This is a decision how to move on together, and. We are in Channel 2. We are Challenge 2. We are working in a very low level, So nothing so far, but very good question.
Yes, and we will come back to that question. We will come back to actually. We will let Lilian Ndungu from AfriGeo and RMD to introduce a number of sources actually for data shortly, but we will come back to that question. Il y a une version française ou une traduction? Hélas, non, pas ici. Mais c'est une bonne idée d'avoir des ressources aussi en français, mais hélas, on n'a pas. So with that, I think we will give the floor to Lilian. Now, Lilian gave this presentation earlier, so we have recorded Lilian. She's not actually with us here, but I will turn on the video and you will get an introduction to plenty of resources of data in Africa. So pay attention to this. It will be about 8-minute long is this video. So we will come back to you after Lilian has presented in this video recording. Just hold on.
I'll start with the Open Data platform. And the Open Data platform was actually developed as one of RCMRD responses to countries' commitments to make data more available. So in support of its member states' needs for data and for open data, then this site was created. And it's actually a little bit more advanced. It has between basic and advanced functionality and capabilities, because for users with limited capacity to manipulate geospatial data, then they can just visualize the data in form of maps and charts and download the data, access story maps and web map applications. But again, for advanced users, those with some GIS technical know-how, then they can connect and use the shared web maps or connect to the spatial data using APIs as an input to their own systems. The open data platform performs all those functions, but it also allows RCMRD to respond to the emerging needs of its users and not just the member states, but also again link to other portals and data sources. So this provides like the one-stop shop for open data within the region. For example, recently with the coronavirus, RCMRD has responded by creating a dashboard that is able to provide some the most recent information in all of its member states on the state of the coronavirus in its member states. And this is just one of the applications that has been a kind of rapid response to a challenge that is being faced right now. And if I could go back, the portal has different sets of data sets, including access to our apps portals, and the apps portal provides data by thematic areas and specific application portals that are geared towards the thematic areas. If you go, for example, in land cover, you'll access a land cover viewer. If you go to agriculture, you'll access a rangeland decision support tool. So like this is the one-stop clearinghouse for all these different data sets depending on use. So, but apart from the open data, we also have the GeoPortal, and the GeoPortal was actually developed as part of the tools, as a tool for disseminating the products and the services that are coming out of SAVIR. And SAVIR East and Southern Africa is a NASA-USAID collaboration that creates user needs defined products, services, and data. And so in order to make it easy for users to access all these different data sets and maps and information and data, then the RCMRD GeoPortal was developed, and with the goal of making sure that these data sets and tools and maps that are coming from SAVIR East and Southern Africa, but also from other sources, are also easily accessible to users, and also with functionality to not only just interact with the data set, but also to bring together different sources of information and create your own new set of information. For example, create a new map. And so the GeoPortal was actually created using it's based on GeoNode, the open source content management system for GIS, and it just does not contain data from SAVIR East and Southern Africa and from RCMRD, but it is intended to be used as a regional spatial data infrastructure that is linking data and information within the region from other country GIS portals. But again, it also enables development of online maps using GeoExplorer. And in our bid to make sure to increase the visibility of these portals, the RCMRD GeoPortal is already part of the SmartAfriHub set of tools, but it's also included in the GEOS portal. Within the GeoPortal, we have again the apps portal, so making sure that again users are able to go directly to the information they need by thematic area, and here you can get the different apps and data and tools by thematic area. And what this has resulted is that since January 2019 up to this point that we are in the year, we've had an increase in traffic and an increase in the use and access of these portals by different users. And this is because I think there has also been a growth in the number of data layers and maps and applications, specific decision-making applications that have been developed and added into the suite of tools. We have over 4,000 data layers and maps in different formats, some of which are downloadable, as I'm going to show you later on. And also making it very visible is important for people knowing where these resources are so that they can access and use them. And apart from those two portals, or 2 or 3 portals, we've also collaborated with our partners, and I'd like to highlight 2 more systems. And that one of them is the Global Agricultural Monitoring Tool. The Global Agricultural Monitoring Tool, and this is a collaboration with GeoGlam, and it allows sorry, just a minute. It allows users to access the most recent information on the vegetation conditions, but also evaluate this data within the administrative boundary to understand what the trend has been. For example, perform a seasonal assessment, an agricultural assessment of up to sub-district level for some countries, sub-county level for some countries, as we call it, and look at the progression or the change in NDVI or the greenness in the vegetation over time, but also understand the variation through using histograms of the different land cover classes. And this information is available at 250 meters, and it's downloadable. You can download the maps, you can download the graphs in image format in this case. And then we have the Early Warning Explorer, again, customized. This is a UCSB tool that was customized through a collaboration, the University of California, Santa Barbara, and our collaboration at RCMRD to customize it for our users in Africa. So this is an Africa-wide tool. And here you can get data on rainfall at 5 kilometers, up to 15-day forecast, and which have been tested for accuracy in the region, maximum temperature, NDVI, and evaluate this data, not just look at this data, but also go to an administrative unit and produce graphs, look at the data, the anomaly, the standardized deviations, and download this information for use in your research or in an assessment.
Yes, and that was the very abrupt end of Lilian's presentation. But you got an overview of some of the very valuable resources in Africa from her presentation. And we have also the slides from her, and you will be able to get that. So, because there was a few links there that might be nice for you to revisit. Now we are in the session where we can discuss a little bit what data sources you know of. We've seen that there's been several links, thank you so much, to data resources in the chat. If you have any particular needs, we would like to learn about them as well. And Karel, maybe you can introduce the work that you are doing in EU4Agri to collect input to the next Copernicus program. We will have some links to more data from Africa than just Lilian mentioned. But Karel, can you introduce the survey that you are working on?
EU4Agri is project financed by European Commission. It is not research project. It is some supporting action. And generally, the goal of this project is to give to the Commission, European Space Agency, and also to the providers some roadmap or information what is needed for the future. There are analysis in 4 groups. One is focused on commercial farming sector, which include not only farmers but also food industry. Second is focused on government in Europe because it's common agriculture policy support. Then is focused on financial sector because also financial sector like banks, like insurance company, they are interested about information related to agriculture production and could be damages. And the last is focused on food security, and mainly this is focused on the needs of countries outside of Europe. And this is my task in this project, to collect information and feedback, what could be good, what will be needed, how, for example, in the future, change the satellite. Yes, so if Bente will share with you the link, the link for some questionnaire. If you will help us to fulfill this, we will be able much better to prepare some recommendation from Commission. Of course, I'm also very looking on the Tuula work with her groups, because there is a lot of very important inputs for my study.
Yes. And absolutely, and I just want to add that EU4Agri is actually mandated to give advice to the future Copernicus program. So if you help us, we can help you with this information. We will also provide you with a link. I think I will ask my impersonator to Hanka to also include the links to next GEOS data catalog, where you can find some data from, well, a lot of data from Sentinel, so the satellite-based component of Copernicus, but for Mali, so it's an African application, agricultural application for Africa there. So you can have a look and you see if you can find some Sentinels there. Yes, and you see, like Karel said, we have posted the link to this survey in the chat box right now, so you get a link to, it's a Google Doc that you can where you can fill in your response. That will be awesome if you can do that. And Bas, I see that it's streaming very fast, so I don't see everything, but I see there's a soligrids.org. There's some information that we get live here, so thank you very much for that. I also want to mention the group on Earth observations. So we have the group on Earth observation have something, the Global Earth Observing System of Systems, and it covers the entire world. And Lilian, I don't know if you noticed, but Lilian mentioned GeoGlam, which is one of the flagships of GEO, and is focused on agriculture. And you saw some of the resources. There are more resources, so I recommend that you visit earthobservation.org and also the GEOS portal, where you can find more data. Now, having said that, we know that we need a lot of in situ data, so ground-based data, local data in Africa. That's a prerequisite to be able to really benefit from all these global sources, from NASA, as you heard Lilian say, from Copernicus, the European program, and so all these things. So we need to know what you need, and it would be awesome if you know some resources that is not yet discovered. We will also like to hear about that. Anything else you want to add here, Karel, Tuula, any of the others?
Oh, I think that not now.
No. Okay. So I think we can move on to the next session. Wait a minute. I promised that I should be able to, that I would invite you to join this room if you have something related to data. This is the moment where you can get in. We have 3 on the list: Felix, Yahia, and Bernhanu. Sorry for the mispronunciation of your names. I will invite you first, Felix. You have to be quick, and you need to have a browser, a Chrome browser, webcam, and a headset, and a good internet connection in order to be able to join us for a quick question. Otherwise, we will also do this invitations at the end. But now we are getting ready for Runar, who has a new mapping concept. I'm really excited to hear about that, where we can map all the wonderful data we get. Right, Runar?
Yeah, by all means, turn up the heat.
Yes.
Turn up the heat.
No pressure or anything.
No, none whatsoever.
So I don't see Felix in here yet, so I think we have to move on. And Yahya and Bernhanu, we will come back to you towards the end, because I think we need to move forward with the program. Runar, now,
yes,
let's hear about this new mapping concept.
Okay, Are you able to see my screen satisfactorily?
Yes, you can click on the hide button at the bottom.
I
Yes.
shall certainly.
Yeah. Thank you.
I shall hide myself. Okay. So I shall speak a little bit about something called map compositions, which we believe might be a catalyst for more citizen mapping. And while I am giving this presentation, it is based nearly exclusively on the efforts of others, several of whom are here. Both Raitis and Karel has contributed more to this than me, but I have nevertheless been given the assignment of introducing it. Starting off then, to see of the line and where we're at and why this is useful, I just thought I'd try to bring together a few perspectives. First one is that we've now made over the last period an enormous investments into data capturing, and we have established, I mean, quite serious global data sources or near global data sources that contain extreme value, but the usage, of course, is limited by the capacity for big data processing. You're able to take all the data that exists for a very limited area, but often our ambition it goes way beyond our capacity for processing, because this is not big data, this is big data. So we have lots and lots and lots of data, but it's somewhat challenging to use them. So then we have made a lot of investments into data sharing for large standardized data sets, and this is often where we meet this great disappointment, which is the difference between our expectations and hopes and dreams and the reality we're facing. Because we always attack any sort of new analytical task as if there ought to be a pre-existing data set that could be used into this. But often this is not the case. But nevertheless, we have put a lot of investments into data sharing, the ability of interchanging data between systems through standardized protocols like WMS, WPS. Even the good old CSV files have become one of the big carriers of information. And the problem of this sort of data is mainly that it's limited by its discoverability. I don't know if that is technically a word, but I think you get the drift of what I'm meaning, at least. It's difficult to find it, and even if it's a little bit like when you're looking for an email in your inbox. You know what it's about, you know roughly when it was written, but you still, for the life of it, can't find it, even though you search and search and search. So the availability of these data is not necessarily evident to people. And the second limit to it is that the public sector is always hailing that there's such a fantastic potential for value-added services based on open data, but then at the same time they publish the data with a license that says free for non-commercial use or free this CC0 or CC share alike. You can use these data for whatever you like, but you can't make money off them, and you can't and you can't use them without sharing with others and so on. So there are a number of challenges with these data also, but okay, they are good building blocks in a big picture. And then there has been a much more fragmented investment in 10,000s of mapping and analysis tools that are being developed by provinces and by regions and by, I mean, every local administration in the known universe has one or more of these things now, ranging from Google Maps with some points of interest on them to sophisticated web map applications. And these are, of course, very nice. They have made these data much more available, but often they allow us to see what we can't have. We are allowed to look at the data that we would like to have access to and that we'd like to play with, but we're not allowed to get access to them. We can just look at them. So this is sort of a challenge, but massive investments. So 3 massive investments, and then it is a little bit surprising then that after 30 years of such investments, we still find, and this is not just in Africa or in any sort of. It is in the egocentric European and West European and North American world. Lots of people who rely on printouts and meeting room tables for any sort of usage of spatial data. So the map, I mean, all these data services, they exist, but the map as a concept is still surprisingly frequently something that is printed, and this is interesting, because the printed map, of course, have a wide range of limitations that makes it. I mean, you're able to visualize a very limited number of dimensions at the same time, and you're not really able to use any of the analytical aspects of GIS. You're only able to use the visualization that someone has prepared, usually not necessarily very beautiful. So that is the starting point then. So what is the importance of sharing maps then versus data? We are sharing lots of data. We are sharing lots of data across systems, and data, they're facts and they're true within their limits. I mean, they portray themselves as true, but they have metadata that says that, of course, they are true within a kilometer. They're true within what it used to be 10 years ago, and they're true within some sort of constraints. But we share a lot of data. But of course, using these data for something, it requires quite a lot of knowledge. Maps, on the other hand, is not just one thing. It's not necessarily factual. It could be expression of opinions. You can make a map that takes the same data set and proves your point, which is polar opposites to everyone else's point. We would hope, of course, that its main purpose is to, the second and the third bullet point here, trying to discover some sort of spatiotemporal patterns that you can't really see by looking at data in diagrams and in tables. And you would like to think that this is a valid way of communication for knowledge and scientific results. But maps are not necessarily true. That's an interesting thing. And that is part of the justification for this map composition concept that we are speaking of, or will speak of. And the reality is that we share very few maps across systems except as images. And images, they can't be audited. So you are not able to really assess the underlying models of whatever you're seeing in a map unless you have access to the data. But it's a nice, nice piece of propaganda that you can use to prove whatever point you want. So map compositions is the driving technology behind this citizen map concept that I speak of. We are envisaging then an open JSON-based or JSON-based interchanged data model that describes maps, not just single data sets, and not predominantly visualization as such, but I mean they describe the contents of maps. If the color green is off by a fraction, that doesn't really matter that much, but they describe the maps and the composition of maps. The OGC made a specification that started along this trail very early, just at the inception of the WMS standard, the WebMap standard, WebMap server standard in the late 90s, beginning of 2000s. But that one was sort of limited to stacking WMS layers on top of each other, so that you couldn't really introduce any other sort of data sources. But the map compositions, this JSON format, they somehow more closely resemble the project files of the professional GIS tools. And these project files, they have never become interchangeable because it's, of course, not in the software vendor's interest to make it easy for people to go from one tool to another. It's nice to offer a data service because you can use the competitor's data in your system, but it's not nice to allow the competitors or to take over your software. So these project files are never really interchangeable. They include stacks of layers. These layers can be anything. It can be a combination of locally available files, for that matter, uploadable shape files, text files, JSON files, WMS layers, WFS layers, any sort of accessible data source. Naturally, any sort of local source will not travel with the JSON. So you would be able to retain private data in this setup also. Interesting also, it includes a layer for user-generated content for embedded markup. So I can create my own data within the map composition file, which can travel along with this file. They're lightweight, they're small, they don't contain that much information, so they're easy to transport around, easy to send between systems. They're interchangeable, can be used in a variety of different clients. So if you have a web map client based on leaflet or open layers, it's easy to build support for this sort of mechanism. And they can be rendered also using professional GIS clients. And presently, there is support for QGIS. And they can be used as a platform for collaborative development of maps and data. And this is what we're going to briefly look at now. Because in this citizen science space, this is often where we try to plug the hole between the data we wished existed and the data that actually are at our disposal. But it's not always so. I mean, you have a huge enthusiastic crowd of people who are able to contribute and provide you with capacity for data capturing in this citizen science domain. But those are not always, I mean, they can of course digitize things of satellite imagery, but they are not always the people who are able alone to assess what they're actually capturing, because it's not always just a work of looking at the map and recognizing an easily recognizable feature and mapping it. It is often a matter of expertise to decide what should be and what shouldn't be captured. And there are sort of different sets of knowledge, and there are limits to data. The analysts and computer scientists, like many of us, we like to think of the world entirely in terms of mathematics and statistics, and anything that happens for the first time is an anomaly and something that should be taken out of the data set because it's not relevant. 2 + 2 = always 4 with us, and we can always solve these equations to find out the number for the missing variable. But as we've been thoroughly reminded now this spring, not everything can be predicted, and there are lots of incidents in the world, and any equation can turn out to literally anything, given that you throw something strange into the mix. So there is a very strong importance of these in situ data capturing to support ad hoc cases. And if we were able then to make some tool that allowed the data analyst, the citizen science actor, to interact with subject matter experts, domain experts, ranging from on the ground knowledge to deeply specialized scientific subject, for them to be able to interact during this data capturing process, you would have a quite much better position to end up with data that has less noise, it's more reliable, and provides better input for whichever onwards purpose you intend to use it for. So we have made 2 challenges around these map compositions. One is to evolve the concept to support further use cases. Now it has a certain scope. It allows for a certain amount of things to be available, to be shared. And part of that is also to build support for mainstream mapping frameworks like leaflet and open layers, which is the basis of most web map solutions around the world by now. And for that matter, also, let's say the ArcGIS JavaScript API or any sort of other major widespread mainstream mapping framework. It's already operating on a branch of open layers, and a long-lived branch that Raitis is the lead developer of, this HS layers next generation, or whatever it's called nowadays, which is a very capable branch of open layers, as well as in QGIS. The second thing is to build this tool that allows people to collaboratively capture data and to interact with each other while assessing data, while assessing maps. And for this, we're building a map whiteboard application that does for maps what Google Docs does for text documents. So it allows many people to edit the same document, same map document, collaboratively, seeing each other's change in real time. And I don't know if I should attempt to make some sort of a very, very brief demonstration of this in conclusion. I might try. We shall see. So I have now two different web browsers connected to the same map document here. And the first thing we can see is that when you are moving around in the map, your neighbor can see where you are. So similar as you've seen the cursor of another person editing the map document in Google Maps, you're able to see what the other guy does. Then that is of course nice because it emulates the process of pointing on a map around a meeting table. So even though this is an extremely naive function, it still emulates something that would ease the transition from this meeting room table A0 plotter map to a shared experience on screen. But that's extremely irrelevant. The more relevant is the collaborative data capturing. So the possibility to capture data at the same time and to edit each other's data. So I could move the marker created by the other guy. And when I move over here, you will see that the marker starts moving in the other map. So this is not ideal to demonstrate on the same computer, but nevertheless. And the same goes for creation of all sorts of geometries on all sorts of levels. And you're able to instantaneously edit, modify each other's geometries, alter them, make holes in them for that matter. You can make quite complex geometries, and multiple parties can then work together on the same map in support of developing a data set. And that would allow you then to have someone who doesn't necessarily know much about these tools look at what you're doing at the same time, so that he can tell you, is it right, is it wrong, in terms of space. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to say, and I will hand the word back to Bente, I think.
Yes, thank you, Runar. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information, and probably if you're not familiar with this, it was hard to follow, but don't panic or be discouraged, because this recording will end up in your inbox later today, because since you have registered, you will get the replay and you can more go through exactly what Runar said, more step by step and calmly. In addition to that, some of the things that Runar mentioned is actually going to be showed in more detail for later now. The QGIS, how to use QGIS, and particularly installing this this plugin will be demonstrated and shown now in the next session. I have a few questions. Runar, I think you, well, you pointed to one of the problems. Even though you see that there are data, you get to see the data, but you cannot access the data. I think you pinpoint one of the big problems that is not only for Africa, but around the world, including here in Europe. And there are some ways of accessing data, of course, but this is what we want to help making it easier to find the data that you are identifying or discovering. So discover and access is not the same thing. And then you have to visualize it, as you say, that you demonstrated in this new method. I see, yeah, so we had a question about big data. What is big data? And Karel, Plan for All, we are a member of the big data, what's this association? Can you give a very short definition of big data for those who are
usually the big data are characterized by three words, yes, volume, velocity, and variability. So it means that you need to have enough data. The data could come in streams, and the data are very heterogeneous. And these are three topics where you have to deal with the big data. Big data could be data from sensors, it could be satellite data. So there's many options, and of course this is now something what is new. But I think that the biggest problem from my point of view till now is variety, yes, because if you have data in different formats, it is very difficult to work with the data together.
Yes. So when we say big data, it's not only the big that, as you pointed out, Karel, and I think that might be confusing for several people. And how big is big? Well, if you have real-time data, you get petabytes of data, but it could be smaller data also, as Karel said. It's just that if it's very, if it's big differences between the types of data, that's one aspect of it. So big data means more than just a big amount of data. I saw also another question. There are several questions for those who probably people are coming in. All this online training will be recorded. If you're registered, you will be able to get the recording directly in your inbox later today. And then on planforall.eu, you will also get access to the slides that you have been seeing here.
And of course, also on the web page is SmartAfriHub.com.
Yes, of course. The material will be made available for you. Absolutely. Okay, so any more questions for Runar in particular about the mapping? Did I not see everything? No, I don't see. Have you discovered any questions that I'm overlooking?
I gotten a few in private, but I responded to them in private.
Okay, good. Okay, I think we are ready for the next session, which is, presenting the SmartAfriHub, and here is where you get the step-by-step explanation and training. You can ask questions. We will stop in between each of the presentations so that you have questions directly to what you heard. That will make it easier for us to move forward. If you have questions, let me see if I have, I don't have any new raising hands right now, but if you have anything, when you raise your hand, please raise your hand to ask questions directly to the subject that you're hearing about. It makes it easier for us to organize. Okay, with that, I think now it's your turn, Karel, to introduce the Yes, go ahead. And we turn off our cameras, and Karel will share his screen.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
I will go very fastly through all things related to SmartAfriHub, but because you heard, there is already a lot of information. I think, Hanka, if you can share the records from previous presentation where this part was already discussed, then people can see this fastly, but I will only skip very fast through all these things. Yes, so we call this this fully smart AgriHub is social space for smart agriculture, and we have there this part, social space, demo application space for developers, and smart AfriHub maps. Today, the most now of the things will be focused on this. Social space or demo application, we are trying to put to the menu some interesting application which could help to the people what was discussed in Tuula group and other. So in this application you can find the link to a number of interesting application, and we will of course add some more. Yes, there is this knowledge base, there is blog, forum, the wiki, and we are trying to publishing a lot of information. But anybody from you can sign to our web pages and put some information into forum on blog. Yes, it is not only that we have to do, but if you have something interesting, you are welcome to publish this on this our knowledge base. So this is next. There were already big presentation, because what we are offer mainly to the researcher and to the people who would like to test some develop. We have the cloud, and you can on the cloud test it, artificial intelligence and other tools to develop their own application. It is more for developers and for researchers. There were already also, I think, big a webinar about this, so Hanka, I hope will share the link to this webinar. And now we are here about what we will speak today. Yes, we will make some introduction of map composition. You will see how to work with the map composition. Here are the main topics which are used for this. All what is here are open sources, and if you will go to SmartAfriHub, you can find there information about the tools and what is important for programs. You can find the link to GitHub or to the repositories where you can find these things. So shortly, OpenMitska is a geospatial catalog working on, there were already mentioned this OGC standard, and but it is also supporting OpenSearch and other things, and it is also able to serve data in RDF for the expert. It is some format for link open data. Lyman is the tool which help to publish data and map composition, because for many people to use the software like map server, GeoServer could be complicated. So Lyman is something what through the open API allowed you to manage publishing data on the server. And again, if you will go to the GitHub, you can find there the description of API, and you can test it, this Lyman, separately. In reality, if you will work with SmartAfriHub, you never will see OpenMitska, and you never will see Lyman, but without these two tools, will be not possible to offer what you can use or how you can work. So till now, Mitska Lite client will be implemented on in the few days, will be available, but today the main focus will be on H layers NG and on QGIS with Lyman plugin. So this will be the things where we will show you today how you can digitize your own data, and how also you can prepare your own map composition as Runar presented, and how you can share this with others. So this infrastructure is fully based on this standard of Open Geospatial Consortium. For your information, I am one from the two shares in Open Geospatial Consortium who is responsible for agriculture information. So we are really working on this, but this map composition is something what is going beyond current OGC standardization. Now, shortly, what is our next plan? I show this cloud. So idea is how in the future be able to connect this cloud for direct publishing in the portal. So it takes some time, but we are thinking how to make this easy. And what I would like to ask you is, of course, the system is under the development. It is used on some advanced components, but of course there could happen that something will not run because it is integrated a lot of the things. So we would like to ask you to join a SmartAfriHub, and here you can find in the forum the part dedicated to the technology, and if you will have some problem, or if you will discover new data, or if you would like to make some suggestion, please use this forum to discuss with us and to help us to improve the system. We don't plan to stop our work after the hackathon. Yes, this is something what we are developing with the vision of sustainability for a long time. But to improve all these things, we will need also your contribution. So anybody can register yourself on our hub and make here some comments. Of course, you can put comments also on other places, or you can use blog or other, but to help us with the system, it will be good if you will use this part and try to communicate with us. So I think that it is all from my side. I try to be short because I think that much more important will be to make this technical demonstrations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Karel, for that quick overview of a great effort, a joint effort by the community, I would also underline, and that this community is open to everybody that's interested. And now, I saw a question here that was about mapping. I just want to get that out of the way. How is, Asa is asking this. How is this mapping quality in terms of cadastral maps? And I think perhaps this was for you, Runar. Are you with us, Runar?
I'm with you, but my
Yes.
microphone button was a little bit far away.
Yes.
Well, the mapping accuracy of the is high enough for that. You could do coordinate entry to give each mapping location, and you would have the same effect. But typically, the cadastral maps are regulated by a title, which includes the surveyed boundary coordinates of the title that to the land that you hold. So for any sort of practical purpose of analytics, it would be good enough. If you wanted to create cadastral data from scratch, you would probably have to enter those coordinates of the title, and that's probably what you would want to do if you're planning to have a lawsuit with your neighbor. But for most sort of analytical purposes, you would be very well off with what is captured in this sense.
Yeah. So this is, I think we have heard this through several of our webinars during these 2 hackathons now, that some of the data, like cadastral data, is not necessarily open in every country, and that causes some problems. However, with artificial intelligence tools, and we start to overcome some of these issues. But ideally, those institutions, I think, Tuula, you were mentioning this, that you also actually need to have capacity building in the institutions in order to be able to share all the data that would be beneficial for society. So, and this is something that we work on in the group of Earth observation as well, to really address this need of sharing as much data as possible, but realizing there are some difficulties. Okay, just to underline the importance of sharing, which was also what Karel then said, please join us to improve what is there. We can do this together. And training is about to start to go more into detail, and that is now Raitis, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That's me.
Yes.
First, I would like to say sorry that the video turned out to be a little bit longer than necessary, and so I will not talk much about that before, but I would like to just highlight that the library which I'm developing and also including in the SmartAfriHub is an open source project, and there are a lot of things which over the years have been developed there, and after each project which we are having, we are packaging these functionalities as a components and then turning them on or off by the need. So also people from outside are encouraged to take part and develop this tool further.
Excellent. And yeah, so Raitis has pre-recorded this tutorial. We will call it a tutorial. And we, in addition to Raitis here, we have František and also Philip, who will be able to answer any of your detailed questions. So make sure now that you, during this, it's a video that Raitis recorded, it's 12 minutes long. Write down your questions. They can be any type of questions. And we have this panel of experts working daily on this to answer your detailed questions. So be prepared to that. Follow this 12-minute long video where Raitis is explaining everything. And then we will have a Q&A afterwards with more experts. Okay? Yes. We are ready to see your video, Raitis. Let's see. I will start it now. Here we go.
SmartAfriHub aims to integrate different types of demo applications, where farmers, developers, and researchers will have the chance to cooperate, test different APIs for new solutions, and also provide common experiments. One of these applications is available on smartafrihub.com under section Map. It provides visualization of thematic data layers and compositions and is in the process of being integrated with various other components, such as server application called Layman for uploading spatial data and converting it to OGC compliant services, and Mitska catalog for storing and searching metadata about spatial data. This application is based on Aegis Layers NG web mapping library, which is being developed further in this hackathon as an open source project. As is common with many mapping applications, it provides layer management functionality, which you can see here, and location and tracking and data source management. Management and discovery, identity tool, which you can use to pick on features in some WMS layer, for example, and see what are these objects' attributes, and printing and sharing of map URL, and also publishing it to social networks, and saving the composition, or in other words, map project, which is available for logged in or authorized users. This is the common core package, which comes included if we include the library bundle in any content management system or static HTML file. But other projects we are developing extra modules, for example, for sensor data management or visualization of specific analysis, for example, or dialogues. I will show you the individual panels in such an order as it would be common in a simple digitization project. Where a user has some background and draws the vector features over this background. First, we would need to connect this background layer. I will go to Data Sources panel, and here we can see three tabs. The first tab is Mitska Data Catalog services or results from this catalog, which we can filter by using map extent or keywords, and we have already populated it with some data sources in Africa. The second one is layman method, layman data source storage or processing application. And the third one is used for uploading or linking different WMS services, ArcGIS REST services, you can see vector files if you have put them on some server already or you want to upload them. And you can also upload shape files, and then they are stored into layman and converted into WMS service. Let's try one of the layers from Mitska catalog, Sentinel-2 imagery. By clicking on this layer here, we can see its metadata, like bounding box, some abstract title. I will now edit. And as you can see, here are the services capabilities. So the image format in which it can be queried, or the features on it can be picked. And here is the list of layers. This particular service has also time dimension. So we can see the Sentinel images in different time periods or time moments in time. So I added it, and now it displays in the layer manager. In layer manager, I can change time, because in this image, in this particular image, you can see that we have part of the image covered by clouds. So I will go to another moment in time. This seems to not be the best date. Yeah, this is a little bit better, so I will use this one. I can change the opacity. To look if some of the content in the background image is not properly digitized in the OpenStreetMap, for example. Yeah, this particular spot seems to be different. So next I will try to add a new vector layer, which I'm gonna use to draw the features on. This can be done in the toolbar on the top. And by clicking plus button, I will add a layer called pixels. And on this layer, I will draw a feature. I can click on the feature and look at its parameters or coordinates, or add some attributes to it. And in the layer manager, I can then click on this layer and then style it. I can also rename the layer or delete it if I would like to. So I'm gonna style it light green with some black contour. Whenever we draw or change some features attributes, the changes get sent to layman and get stored in a spatial database. and then can be served as a WMS or WFS service. This also happened right now. So when we are reloading the layer or reloading the page, the layers are available in the Data Sources panel under tab Layman. Here they are. So if we click on the fixes layer, we can see its metadata. Here are the links for WFS and WMS, which are very useful for geoinformaticians to integrate these services into other GIS solutions or analysis. We will add these services, both of them, to the map as a vector layer and also as WMS imagery layer. When we clicked on the WMS option, then we are presented a dialog where we can choose the image format query format, put the layer under some folder. So we will choose this layer here and add it. Currently, the symbology was not generated and sent to Layman, so it uses some default symbology, but we plan to extend it and create some automatic symbology creator and SLD file creator on the client side, and then send that one to Layman. Now we have to style it on our own. Here in this panel, we can see the legend. And when we change the style for the vector layer, I will again make it green with black contour and turn off the WMS layer. Then in the legend, you can see that the legend panel, you can see that the legend changed. So it got dynamically regenerated. Aegis Layers uses the first 1000 features to generate some unique images in the legend graphics, because the legend can be can vary with, by some attribute values, for example. And now my colleague will probably more tell you about map compositions and authorization and also thematic map layers.
And
thank you for your attention.
yes, this is the layer. That was it. Yes. Thank you so much. Very detailed, and I'm sure you will be able to use this presentation later when you go and try yourself. And I've seen here in the chat that you have asked some questions, and our colleagues Philip and František have tried to answer them the best they can, and Jan as well. so I think, do you want to add something, Raitis?
No, I guess I will go through the questions and try to answer them as best I can, best as I can.
Maybe I can add one thing. What Raitis demonstrated is the client which is fully integrated with the portal. On the portal, you can find on the link which is working out of the portal and which is better if you would like using this map on your smartphone. In the description of Aegis Layers, you will find the link also for the client which is not integrated with all portal, and which you will be able to use on your smartphone.
Yes, that's true. The application and Aegis Layers is also working on smartphones. It's not a native application, so the performance might be a little bit lower, but still it works, and it has this responsive design or responsive layout, and has been used in some sewage treatment project in or facilities in Czech Republic as a mobile application, and also for collecting citizen science data or voluntary generated data before.
So actually, what you're saying, you can create maps with your mobile phone using this tool.
Yes, exactly.
Very cool. So I don't know if this may be you might want to test out this facilities here when you participate in the big Earth challenge that is just was launched yesterday. Yesterday was the Earth Day, and a big campaign to collect as many citizen science data as possible was launched by this event, and the group on Earth observation is participating there because we are interested in this data. And maybe you can use this a very easy, low threshold way of contributing to all this by using the smartphone, as Raitis just explained to us. I have a question, Karel, because we have been discussing, and to Raitis, to all of you, we have been discussing, the different data sources. There's a lack of data, and there are different data sources. Now, these tools that is on the SmartAfriHub, can they access data from other data catalogs and use the tools?
Yes, from these catalogs which are supporting open format. Yes, our data catalog is fully for the people who are expert ISO 13919 standard. It is the standard for exchange information among the catalogs. So we could be or client of other catalogs, so we can download or harvest data from other catalogs, or we could be server for other catalogs. Then other catalogs can harvest it all what is on our catalog. So this is fully open. We are also support that it could be searched from open search. And what is also interesting, it takes some time, but due to the fact that we are using also metadata in RDF and this format, the metadata will become also searchable through Google, but it took some time. Yes, so there is also this possibility.
Yes, exactly, because what we all have heard about today, that there's many different portals, there are many different catalogs, and even for the free data. And so what you said, Karel, is that, for instance, open search APIs will be possible to use. So you will be, the SmartAfriHub will be a part of this network that is connected.
Yes, of course. And if anybody would like to, for example, integrate data here, it is enough to send us the URL for this CSV protocol, and we will be able, for example, organize harvesting every midnight of metadata and making actual metadata available from other portals. But this is why we need community. And of course, on opposite side, anybody can harvest metadata from our portal.
Yes. So this is what we've discovered, actually, that, knowing about the data and then accessing the data for many reasons. Sometimes the systems are broken, so the data are there, but you cannot access it. So having different nodes, like SmartAfriHub being one of them, is securing a resilience for accessing data. So
yes, and of course also in the cases when you would like to make here map composition, you need to find the data, or eventually if you would like to run some analysis, usually you need to access the data on your portal. So this is very important that the portal will be in some way interoperable, because you saw this this image. I showed this also on some previous presentation with bottle of wine. That for people it's not good to see. If you would like to know what is in the bottle, go to this terminal. People need to see this metadata here, and this is also why we are integrating metadata to map client. Yes, not to have separated search for metadata, but directly integrated into map client, because this we see as very important.
Yes, absolutely. And so metadata, in fact, is the thing that is necessary to make data interoperable, that you can actually discover the data and access the data. Then you need to have the metadata.
What is also important that a little more than is in the standard, we are able also make metadata about map composition.
Mm.
One from the next presentation from Jan, how then could benefit QGIS from this catalog of map compositions?
Absolutely. So Jan, apologies. Well, maybe you are sort of the secret person in this panel now. People have been seeing you, but do not know who you are. So I think the time is right and ripe for you to introduce yourself. I will let you introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about yourself and what you do. Can you do that?
Okay. Hello, my name is Jan, and I'm developing applications for QGIS in Python language. This is my focus at work. And one of this application I would like to introduce for you.
Right. So we will get an introduction to the plugin, the layman plugin for QGIS, right? That's what you are going to tell us about. Yeah. So just before I give you the floor to do that, for those of you who are novices, who are new to the QGIS tool, we have a link to a tutorial that will introduce you to QGIS in general. And we will, in that tutorial, which was given by NextGeos, by the way, in that we talk about plugins, that you can create your plugin. And what Jan is going to do now is to explain in detail what the plugin, one type of plugin, and how you connect it to QGIS, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you have it. You can. I think we are ready to learn about the QGIS plugin now, Jan. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So I share my screen.
Yeah, we turn off our cameras again, including you, Jan, and then we will.
So
do you know how to turn off your camera?
Oh, sorry.
Yes. Go ahead. We are ready.
I prepared short live example how to create map composition with QGIS and store it on layman server. We can move into the QGIS, try to create small composition. I don't have existing project in Uganda, so I prepared fictional project where I created some layers in random fields and places in Uganda territory. I used orthophoto Google satellite maps as base layer for this project because it has quite good resolution per pixel. So we have a QGIS project with 4 layers, 2 polygon layers named brown fields and green fields, 1 line string layer representing river, and single trees in the fields placed like a point layer. Sorry. There is also assigned symbology that will be also stored in layman. That means colors, line widths will be also available on the server. So we have 4 vector layers, and we want to create map composition of them. For this purpose, there is a layman server and a QGIS client. After start plugin, I must authorize plugin against some live rate server. I authorize plugin, and after successful authorization, I can move back to the client, and I can start manage maps form. Most functions of this plugin are included right here. Click on the Add Map. Now it's time to fill mandatory fields. There is a short title, representative name, and description. There can be some longer text. There is also extent of canvas. I'll take it from focus of QGIS. Now we have empty composition, and we can add outliers. So I focus on our composition, and I adding four layers. Layers appeared in a layer list, and now is also available layer preview. Now is composition and all layers stored at Layman server, and we will try load it back into the QGIS like web map service raster layers. So there it is. I turn off all layers. Now we can see raster layers of map composition. We can also load composition back to the QGIS like vector layers, but without symbology, because symbology is not provided in web feature service in this version of Layman. But a big advantage of web feature service is the possibility of layer editing in the future. Now I want to delete greenfields layer from composite and add existing layer from Layman instead of that. I'm moving back to manage maps form and deleting a map from our composite. Now we have only 3 layers in composition, and I prepared forest layer, and this layer is stored already in Layman server. Layer was successfully added, and we can check it again over web map service. Greenfields layers is gone, but forest layer right here was added to VMS. And now I want change brownfields layer and made this change into map. So I will use our old layer I will add next brown field. I'm moving back to Manage Maps. There is already exist brown field layers, but I will override its geometry. Now map composition was successfully modified. So that's all about this short tutorial. If you want to try it by yourself, you must install QGIS and layman plugin by following instruction that I will send into the chat after presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. Instructions are also already on, I think, SmartAfriHub, how to install these plugins. There are also instruction. But Jan, in principle, there will be also possible if you will have already some existing maps in QGIS, you can directly from QGIS publish this, yes? Or you can take some shapefile to the QGIS, and with this also you can publish this on the server, yes?
Yes, it doesn't matter if it's a shapefile or a GeoJSON or so on. Everything you can upload into the layman server.
Great. I see there are some questions and some answers. Have you, Raitis, have you followed the detailed questions there? And Jan, I guess you not, because you were doing the presentations. Karel, also, have you seen any questions that we should highlight?
I don't know, because I follow this. I don't see so much.
There was the question if the layers which get vectorized are by one user are also available to other users, and the question and the answer is that yes, because they are published as WMS and WFS services. And the user who published them is able to copy the URL of the service and give it to other people to include them into their own compositions. But later we will also develop some kind of a permission system where the user can then set the permissions for anonymous users, for himself, or maybe just like it would, just like it is common in Linux-based systems, like file permission model.
Mm.
But yeah, currently it's a copy-paste of WMS URL, and that you can see in this metadata dialog, which I was showing you in the video.
Hmm. Yeah, Karel, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think I see here some question from Victor. Is the fully smart app or just a platform like OSM? I think that it is a complex system. Yes, it is something what is we discussed is what is compatible with Geo in Europe with Inspire. Yes, so it is a solution which can help for managing and sharing the data. You can share there any type of the data, and the goal is to extend it, the possibilities for the future. So it is some real open solution.
Yes, it's a.
And in reality, it is something what is relatively easy replicable. Yes, so such type of solution can be replicated on other places. So this and this is also why we are pushing open sources, and what we are here also trying to demonstrate that you are able to build powerful system, having desktop client and having web solution fully on the base of open sources. That there is no necessity to look only on the commercial system, but 100% on open sources you are able to build something what is very powerful.
Yes. So this is all about open source, and also these trainings are free and open to facilitate the bigger collection of data and use of data. So so it's a joint. In many ways, for me at least, it sounds like it's following the model of Linux. I mean, with sufficient number of people at different levels using the free and open source, the better the product will be. This is also what you have in mind, right, Karel? To have as many as possible to join. And it's not only to join to use the tools, but also to develop the tools, right?
Yeah, yes, of course, and you can help us to build a platform as all, but anybody could select some concrete components and work on these concrete components. All these components are on GitHub, and you can find the link to any from these components if it will be interesting for you.
Yes, and I noticed that there was a question about do you have applications developed in North Africa, Egypt, Morocco, Israel, so northern part of Africa? And the answer that Philip gave is that the solutions can be used anywhere, of course. But I think also perhaps it's about how to get the data that you fill then that you use.
I think that yes, we are trying to make some data, and if you will look on challenges for this so-called Kampala hack, you can find there among the list of the challenges the challenge which we called open land use, where we are trying to cover all Africa with the land use with the same model. So we are looking also on sources of this data, and I think that the part of this data were also already transferred in maybe in part of Egypt. Yes, we don't have all Africa, but our dream is to cover all Africa with the data which will be compatible with land use which we done for Europe. But all depends also on the discoverability of different data sources.
Yes, absolutely. So let me see if I have also, yeah, Raitis is writing there. Yes, and you find, so as many questions is where, where do we find more information? Where is the links? And we provide a lot of these links and addresses in the chat box. And you will also get it when we are publishing the summary of this training session on both planforall.eu and SmartAfriHub.com. So you will be able to find all the material that we have been discussing here, and then probably some in those places. And you can follow us if you want to be alerted when this material is ready, except for the replay you get directly in your inbox tonight. You can follow us on Plan for All on Twitter and on Facebook, and SmartAfriHub as well, I guess, Karel?
Yes, of course.
Yes. So now I think we are ready to see some examples. This was the segue to discussing the data of North Africa. I think some of the issues will probably be covered by Dmitri. Dmitri, we need to invite in Dmitri in here, which means I have to excuse one of my panelists here. I think, Jan, will you be able to support us in the chat box after if I excuse you from the room?
Of course.
Yes, then I will excuse you and give room to Dima. Okay. See you later, Jan. So I will invite Dima. We call him Dima. Many of the people in this network have nicknames. So sometimes we use the proper name, and sometimes we use the nickname that we are giving each other. Okay, so Dima is going to join us. Meanwhile, let me see if there's any other questions that we can I have to admit, it's so great that you are so active, but it means that some of the questions will escape me and the others. Yeah, the plugins we have, you have seen links to that, and thank you, by the way, for answering the polls that we have asked during this online training. We have asked where you're from. We saw that there's a lot of you from Africa, and that's super. And then we also asked if you have used or use QGIS, and actually, well, now it's alive. The poll is alive, so 60-40ish is the division. But so most of you then have used QGIS, and some of you haven't. But then this is an excellent opportunity to get to know it. We have lots of material for you here. Now,
it seems that Runar need to left us. So Runar, maybe some last comment from your side.
Well, at the happy arrival of the face of Dima, I think nothing is. I mean, I regret deeply that I have to leave, but such is life. I wish you a continued good seminar.
But we will see live somewhere, you know.
Yes, we most certainly shall.
Is it virtual meetings are not so fun?
Well, they are better than nothing. So, nevertheless, the best of continued days to you all, and good luck on the challenges ahead.
You too,
I'm looking forward to meeting you all around at different places around Africa and Europe and the world. Once it's
so much.
reopened.
Yes, thank you so much, Runar.
Thank you.
Meet online. Yeah, ciao. Okay, Dmitri, Dima, it's your turn to give us some examples of using these tools, right?
Yes, so maybe at first I will introduce myself. So my name is Dmitri Kozhuch, and I'm basically mentor at Kampala and Dubrovnik hackathons. I'm leading open land use challenges, and basically there are still some tasks to do in the teams, and there are some places. So maybe if you haven't yet joined the hackathon, I would be happy if you join and you will too work. And today I will give you some introduction about basically creating maps and searching for the data for the maps, and I will maybe show some other functionality of SmartAfriHub that was spoken today about. So I will switch to presentation.
Yeah, thank you, and sorry, apologies, Dima, for not getting you to introduce yourself. It's the end of the day.
I understand.
New face is you not a new face to me, obviously, but for the audience you are. So welcome, and thank you for waiting to have your turn.
Yeah, I would rather prefer to be in the beginning, because in the beginning it was I think 160 people, and now it's just more than 80. So, but well. It happens. Okay, so it's a presentation about creating map compositions in the SmartAfriHub map tool. And at first I will speak, because basically I think the most important when you create map is to have idea what you want to display basically, and in the rest I think the data is no problem, because nowadays there are so many data sources. So I think that the most important is to have the motivation and to have the clear idea why you create the map. So at first, searching the data. There are different types of data: global level data, regional level data, country level data, local data, and some mixed data. And I will briefly give some examples of this type of data. So if we speak about global level data, it's the data coming from global organizations and global programs. For example, in Europe, European Union puts lots of money and promotes a lot. Copernicus program is the program basically mostly done by European Space Agency, and it's for basically monitoring the world from Sentinel missions, and there are lots of global services that is published within this program. For example, Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service, Copernicus Atmosphere Service, Copernicus Land Cover Service, Copernicus Climate Change Service, and so on. So this is a very good source for remote sensing data. Then it's a US Geological Survey, which basically publishes products from Landsat satellite mission. Also, they publish other global data, for example, about earthquakes, also digital elevation model of the world. And also there are some other organizations, global, for example, Food and Agriculture Organization that is part of United Nations, and they also publish their data, and it's basically lots of data like this. Here, typically how it looks, you basically enter data catalog. Here, for example, it's the interface of Copernicus Climate Data Store. You enter, you need to register. It's usually it's registration for free on this web pages. So you register, you enter, and then you search data sets for what you need. And typically it's some standard formats in which they provide the data, so it shouldn't be a problem. Here is, for example, interface of Copernicus Marine Environment Monitoring Service, which looks quite similar. It's a description of the data there, also formats, some additional options like subsetting of the data is global data. And for example, if you need it for a certain country of a certain geographical coordinates, you can type it there and just download the portion of the data you need. Also, you can subset it by time, for example, if you need just data for spring or just the data for autumn. Then it's regional level data, which is data that comes from regional organizations. For example, for such organizations, we can count European Union Statistical Office, Eurostat. Also, it's some portal that provides climate-related data for Eastern Africa that I found, which is EGAD, Climate Prediction and Application Center. Also, there are about 300 spatial data sets there that you can find. This the interface very similar. You just, for example, this is Eurostat. You browse the data by themes, select the table that you want or the data set that you want, download it, and also it's no big problem to display this data in map. Then also it's country level data, which is published by some country level institutions. For example, good example of this is Department of Environmental Affairs of Republic of South Africa. They have quite extensive data for download about nature in South Africa. It's protected. Here you can see it's basically protected areas. It's land cover assessment, land cover data set, and so on. Everything is available for download. No problem. Then it's local level data, which is published by municipal and governmental organizations, municipal governments and organizations of the city. So, for example, Prague Geoportal, it's one of those. It's basically a portal where you can find lots of geospatial data about the capital of Czech Republic. Unfortunately, I think that in Africa, I didn't see anything such, but probably in the near future time, it will be something like this. Then it's some mixed level data, which is basically crowdsourced, and it combines some data on the global scale with the data on the local scale. To this data, we can regard Wikipedia, Wikidata, basically, and OpenStreetMap also. It's two very famous data sources where you can find almost anything. And so this is the interface of OpenStreetMap. If someone didn't see it, you can find all types of geographical objects on this map. Also, the database is available freely for download. Then file formats, it's basically our tools that we do. They work with most popular data formats. To such, we can regard, if we take raster data, it's GeoTIFF, NetCDF, GRIP, PNG, JPEG. Then if we take vector data, it's typically a shapefile, which is a product of S3, then GeoJSON, KML, to name a few. Typically, this data they're served by different data providers in form of sometimes they're served as for example FTP storage that you can download the file itself. But most commonly, you will find that this data is served through web services. Some they have custom APIs. Some basically provide you access to database. For example, nowadays it's quite popular to create RDF triple stores, and then user can just connect to this database interface and issue the query to the data by typing query in simple protocol and RDF query language, SparkQL to abbreviate. Then also it's very popular to use services that are propagated by Open Geospatial Consortium, OGC, for example, web map services that you heard today, web feature services, WFS, web map tiled services, WMTS, and this is just some example. Very often these data providers, they give you some user interface where you can query the data. So here is an example of querying the data by data API of OpenStreetMap. For example, I ask here to show all natural parks protected in Uganda, and here I have the result displayed immediately. And if I still interested in the data, I can just export it to GeoJSON, and for example, then I can use it in QGIS, or I can use it, for example, in SmartAfriHub platform. Then it's also some similar interface. SOFOX is called, and it provides access to RDF triples that are stored in Wikipedia and also in OpenStreetMap. And you can sort of connect to both repositories and do some mixed queries between Wikipedia and OpenStreetMap. Usually the connection is done, for example, based on directly based on the entity, or sometimes it's through some registers, for example, like country abbreviations and so on. Yeah, and like now, I think that in future SmartAfriHub will support all of this popular format. For now, we support the GeoJSON, S3 shape files. And from web services, it's currently WMS service and WFS service. So maybe I can now switch to some live demo. I will start basically from the beginning, as you probably would do. Just a second. Open browser. Okay, so let's open SmartAfriHub page. SmartAfriHub.com. Okay, so here is this SmartAfriHub, and at first I log into to the portal. So I put at first I register, just fill in some registration, basic information, basically the name, email address, and so on. It's for free. And then when I get it, I can sign in to the portal. So here I sign into the portal, and now, for example, I want to create some map. Actually, don't have idea which map to create. I don't have any particular idea, but for this workshop, I will just give an example of using different data sources and to display it in the map. So here is the base map, and then I go to select data sources. It's basically the data sources that are already in the platform that has been published by participants of different hackathon challenges, and in general global data that can be of use of people. So it's here we have, for example, normalized difference vegetation index calculated from Sentinel-2 imagery. Then we have just Sentinel-2 imageries, and we have the data from South African Environmental Ministry. We have open land use data. We have basically land cover map created by ESA of the whole Africa. We have OpenStreetMap land use objects in Africa. We have the data from AfriCover project. We have also, I have published some data from Copernicus services about global ocean biogeochemistry and, for example, data about physical parameters of the ocean. So let's add some data from Copernicus that shows various physical parameters of the ocean. So I press on the data source. Now, basically, we are connecting to this service, and here we have the list of the data available through this service. So let's say we are interested in seeing salinity of the ocean. So we select this layer, seawater salinity, then style. It's different styles provided. Let's select red-blue style. Elevation, it's how deep the measurement was taken. So let's say minus 0.5 meters, which is, let's say, the surface of the ocean. And then I select the time that I'm interested. It's basically the database started in 2016, and it's even with forecast, so it's +7 days from now. But let's say we're interested in having current data, so we select today, and then we we press plus. We add this data to the map. So here we have this data about salinity. Well, you can see that in some areas where rivers flow in the ocean, for example, here in Congo and Zaire, basically salinity is lower because the river inflow. So this is this, and now, for example, let's say I will show you how to. Let's say now I decided to add to the map the data about national parks in Uganda. And this data I need to query from OpenStreetMap API, because basically OpenStreetMap has almost everything. So I just go to the interface of API, and here, because I was looking at it today, so I saved the query that finds protected areas in Uganda. So I run the query. This is basically, I just show you to show that it's not so difficult to find whatever you want if you really need it. So the data is not such a big issue. So it usually takes about 5 to 10 seconds to query the database, and basically the API is quite well structured. That it is quite semantic. So at first you say that I need Uganda, find me relation with English name Uganda, and then find me all objects in this area that have attribute boundary equals to protected area. So here we have the data, and now we need to download the data. So we select export, and then we select download as GeoJSON. So here it get downloaded, and then I want to add this data to this map. So for publication of your custom data, it's a tool that is also within SmartAfriHub that is called Layman. It was spoken about before. So we go to the service, and here we have basically REST API. It even allows you to publish your data sets from programming command programming interface, for example, from Python. So here is my name, Dmitri. So I select a file that I have downloaded just now about natural parks in Uganda, downloads, and then let's see, quite many files in download folder. So here is this file. layer name, protected areas in Uganda, protected areas, layer description, protected areas in Uganda according to OpenStreetMap. Also, it's good to enter a reference system, which is typically it's VGS, and then you press submit. And the files get uploaded and published into your user account. So now upload finished, and when I return to map and I go to data sources, go to data sources, layman, and here I have this layer that I have published, protected areas in Uganda. I click on it and I can edit as WMS or WFS service, so I select it as WMS service to the map. And yeah, here I need to select the exact layer that I need, the image format, and then I click plus, and the areas I added to the map. And it's actually also queryable layer, so when I click on some feature, I here have the relation ID according to OpenStreetMap. So, for example, I can take this relation ID and I go to OpenStreetMap web page and I add this relation here, and I have information about this wildlife reserve. So this is actually Pine Upe Wildlife Reserve. Here you have all information entered by users about this reserve. Here, so we have already this layer, and also I wanted to show how to use this integrated SparkQL endpoint that combines Wikipedia data with OpenStreetMap data. It's called Sophox. And from this, I will query the information about provinces in Uganda. So I have pre-prepared the query. It's basically quite easy to learn this SparkQL query language because it's very close to human logic. So here I query, I find entity Uganda, then I find entities that are part of Uganda, and then also I found some capitals of the provinces. But it's too long for this webinar, I think. So here, when I query it, I can see immediately the results. I can also, click on province, have information about it. Let's find here Kampala. I even added as attribute the image of the provincial capital in Wikipedia. So here, for example, it's the capital of so it's Jinja. Sorry, I didn't click on Kampala, but on Jinja province. So it's the capital of the province, how it looks. Yeah, and this data also you can export it and use at SmartAfriHub. So here it's data. Export, probably export, and you select GeoJSON and export, and it's also saved there. And again, you go to layman, you select the file that you downloaded. Yeah. Here it's basically can be a problem because the file needs to be called to have exactly the name GeoJSON. So you need to rename the file to have extension GeoJSON. So it's data JSON now, and I will rename it to data GeoJSON. So that layman knows that it's in GeoJSON format. So choose data GeoJSON. Then I call it provinces in Uganda. Provinces in Uganda. Layer title, let's say provinces in Uganda, the same. Layer description, provinces in Uganda according to OpenStreetMap and Wiki. This system is the same for 326 submit. Yes, so it's there. So I go back to map, then data sources. Already have 3 data sources in layman. This is also provinces in Uganda. So let's add it to the map. Add as WMS. Just a second. Yeah, provinces in Uganda. Add. Yeah, and here you have the provinces, and when you click on the province, you have all these attributes that I have selected from this graphical user interface, label of the province, label of the provincial capital, the international statistical code of the province, and also the image of the capital city. Also here it's obviously it's possible to change the order of the layers. And so here you have like provinces in Uganda, and on top of this is protected areas. And let's say when you are, I don't know, usually you will make something that makes sense. I just did it to show you the possibilities. And then after you happy with the result, you press save, and you save the map that you can further work on in future. Let's say now you added 2 layers, and tomorrow you want to add some layers, and you save it and you open it tomorrow and you add more layers if you want, or you rework it, or you want, for example, share it with your friends. So here I press save it. Well, I just name it test composition for webinar, test composition for webinar. Abstract is just showcase of AfriHub. Keywords, for example, Uganda, Copernicus, OpenStreetMap, Wiki, extend, use current map extend, and then you press, well, this I don't know for what it is, but here I select the layers that I want to be in the composition. I click next. Here is the person, put my name, Dima, organization, plan for all. Well, it's position, address, it's some metadata that can be useful if you are like creating something unique, or you want like some authorship, some credits, but in normal case you don't need to enter any further. Next, save as. So saving composition saved successfully. I close it, and then then when I go to compositions bar here, I have test composition for webinar. And I can open it now, or I can, return tomorrow, and still it will be here. Yeah. So let me get back to the presentation. So live demo follows, and then thank you for your attention. And if you have some questions or you need some assistance with finding data, or you have some technical difficulties understanding SmartAfriHub or something, you can just ask me. Here is my email. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dima. That was very courageous of you to do a live demo, because that was really live.
Yeah. Well, because I know what works and what not. So.
Yeah, but there are so many things that can go wrong. First, I want to really say thank you for the very patient audience who is still here. We are 35 minutes over the planned time, so thank you so much for that. We have had some questions concerning registration. There are many things you can register for, and we have provided some of the links here. You can register for several of the challenges in the hackathon. You can register on the SmartAfriHub platform, and probably some more as well. So we will provide, well, we have links in the chat already, and we will definitely provide that in the reporting from this, even in the recorded webinar video, that when that will be made available on YouTube, you will also get links to the different resources.
Maybe that I can shortly show where to register. Yes.
Yes.
SmartAfriHub. I will.
So on the SmartAfriHub itself, if you want to go play, right? If you want to be a part of this. So we will see. Yeah.
Okay. It is very easy. Yes. If you are looking on SmartAfriHub, go on the right, and here is the bottom sign in. So if you have password, you can use this. If not, go for create account, and then you will have access for the editing on the portal. It is very simple.
But Karel, it says your address is smartafrihub.com/forum.
No. The address, normal address is SmartAfriHub. It's depend where you are, but normally smartafrihub.com is address. Yes, and then is
sign in. Okay.
Sign in. Yes. Here are these examples of this different application. Also, if you have something what you see as very interesting, yes, and what you would like to share with the rest of community, please send us info about the software, and we can put this. Or if you have something what you would like to publish directly after registration, you have the chance to make or after second you can make your contribution to the blog or forum. Yes, so you have the chances to put their information, because it is really some type of social space.
So there's a forum really that you can.
Yes. There is forum till now. Not many contributions. So we will be happy. Mainly, if you would like to discuss the things about hub, there is this technology, and under this technology there are subcategories, and you can make any contribution to this. But you can also use other categories if you would like to share this. And this on what is done on the hub, you can share also with the buttons on social media. So if you would like, if you will put some, for example, to the blog, and if you would like to promote this, you can promote this also on social media. Probably most of you see some my contribution on social media. So if you will be part of the community, you can do the same.
Excellent. And this is an additional question related to the login on AgriHub. For using the QGIS plugin, how do you use the QGIS plugin? After you have registered on the SmartAfriHub, then you will be able to access it via there, or you need to go to. Where do you need to go to?
Okay, this will be explained, yes, because we are now solving some last things with authentication, but we in a few days, because of course there is big integration. In few days we will explain. After the signature, you will be able, or you can sign from QGIS. Yes, Jan.
If you want to sign new QGIS, you need AfriHub ID. I can provide it, and account at AfriHub. But some part of AfriHub is not working right now, so it will be running, I think, Karel.
So yes, in reality, what we are doing is hackathon. Yes, so it is all integrated online. So could happen that for some days, some part of functions will be not good. So this is also why I am asking you to use this forum and tell us, yes, because it is the normal situation that if you are testing some software like programmer, all is working, but when users start to use this, then are coming the problem. But okay, it is a little risky, but we prefer this way to open the things and to have the feedback. Yes, because usually for software it's much better if people are able to give feedback during the development and tell us what is not working. So this is why I am asking. Yes, please try to play, comment, send question. We will answer to you. If there will be anybody very interested about some software, some maps, you can also join. Could be GitHub and see the tickets on GitHub. Put tickets there, but it depends on your involvement.
Yeah, it sounds to me that there are many avenues to this community here. You can go to SmartAfriHub. You can go to a GitHub, as you say. You can go to other platforms where you work on this. On this, you can join the hackathon, and there we have several different challenges that is actually using SmartAfriHub, right, Karel?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah.
You know that hackathons very often are about some competition. It is not such in our case. Yes, no. We are trying to develop different pieces. And now, naturally, SmartAfriHub became the center for most, not all, but most of the challenges in the hackathon. So different challenges are trying to contribute to SmartAfriHub, and our goal is to have really good platform which will be able to show now the result from hackathon, but not only result from the hackathon, but really open space where people will be able to share maps, to make some access point for the maps, to test it, some analysis, because there, as I mentioned, there is also part for developers where you can test it, some analysis with R or other software. So I think that Dima makes also some examples, because there is on this cloud there is Jupyter, and with Jupyter you can test it your own application. I think that Dima can share with you some examples of such cases. So this is really we see this as really tool for capacity building and also sharing the data and the future, and it will not stop with end of the hackathon, but we plan to continue. We would like to move this, could be as a part of future GEOS infrastructure or other infrastructures, or we are ready to share this our experience with any infrastructures in Africa, and eventually offer the tools which are here as part of infrastructure which will be built in some countries. Yes, and this is also why we are focusing only on open source.
Yes, and thank you for saying that, Karel, because we talk about the hackathon, yeah, and the concept for many is that that's a competition. Attending this and be a part of these hackathons is actually then becoming a part of a community that builds something. The SmartAfriHub was built, well, actually came from the Foodie project, which has been developed in several hackathons, right, Karel? You know?
Yes, it was, and many projects is now cooperating with us on these hackathons. Yes, but it is not necessarily only projects. Yes, so there is cooperation, and as I mentioned some years ago, Inspire Hackathon is not event; it is process. Yes, and so we would like to invite you to become the part of this process.
Yes, and what's in it for you, except having fun, is that we are going to write reports. So publications based on the work that you do. And if you're a student, this is something that you can merit from. So you get sort of credit for the work that you've done. So all those who are participating in all the challenges in the Kampala hackathon is actually going to be published with a DOI on the Gudan. I forget the name of the outlet of Gudan. They have a publication.
Yes, there is this idea. There is discussion, some paper in RDA, and also I spoke about the paper in what is this Czech Agris Online. Yes, there will be. It is also indexes in Scopus. So, and if you will work with us, we of course consider you as co-author.
Yes, exactly. So this is the reward that you get anyhow, and in addition to just be able to use a very powerful tool for you and to develop it further. So it's rewarding on many levels. I think yes. We are. I have to go in 15 minutes. So, but I think Karel, you had a vision. I think you have spoken a little bit about your vision for the SmartAfriHub in the future, but you also have some slides prepared for that. Do you want to?
No, I don't have slides. I think that really, yes, all depends on some community around this, because I am all time calling this that this is some type of social space. Yes, we can serve you by data, by information, but we would like to use this as the place where any can share the experience, where people can find some colleagues, friends, partners for projects. Yes, to promote their work, because I think that it is important that you will be able here to promote your work, to send us questions. Yes, because we need your feedback, and if anybody will could be join some, because it is as we spoke, it is composed from many open source projects. If anybody will be able to join the community of around some tools, we will be happy. Yes, so all is open, and our vision, of course, is to continue with this, and hopefully after this crisis, yes, we will have chance to also meet in situ in some place in Africa or other, because initially the idea was that on the end we will all present it in Kampala, like we done last year in Nairobi. I'm very happy that from last year our community around grows, that we have really big interest, and we can be happy in our community that we are able to work virtually. Yes, a lot of people has known this chance, so we are able to work virtually across all world. We are now a lot of about this communicating with Godan, yes, because this is some chance how to organize the meeting, because okay, for some people in Africa or in other countries it's difficult to travel, but in any case we will support this with virtual work, and we will continue, and I will be very happy if they will continue discussion mainly on the what started on Skype and what started on WhatsApp. Yes, if the discussion will continue later directly on SmartAfriHub.
Yes, and so Felix, thank you so much for your interest. You see, creation of the farm hubs in Kenya has been your work for the last 7 months. I'm very happy that you are here, and I'm sure this will be a fruitful collaboration. You can sign up on SmartAfriHub. You have several emails here where you can contact us, and please do that. Thank you from New Orleans. Oh my goodness. From the other side, we haven't really had time to comment on the broad audience here, but we have noticed that you come from all over the world. So it's a privilege to be having you on this mini online training. Yes, I think we are. I think we have pushed the limit for what we can absorb online in front of a screen. I will give the floor to the to the speakers for a last comment, and then we will call it a day. And see you already. We will already have a webinar tomorrow on how we can use deep learning for improving weather forecast, more precise weather forecast, and also climatic trends, both of which are very important for food production. So Tuula, I will start with you. You started the show here. Do you have any comments, observations that you want to share with us?
Of course I have.
Yes.
Talking with these African great guys, I have a strong feeling that they can change the game. They have tools, they have an inspired feeling, they are curious about new tools. The data is what they need. And then there is a huge opportunity to do whatever they want. There is potential.
Yes.
Go for it. Yes.
Go for it. Yes. Raitis. Unmute.
Thank you, everybody, for the patience, and thanks for all the ideas which floated in the chat. I really appreciate it. And also, I enjoyed watching the presentations which you guys did. Also, very, very beneficial, and yeah, makes my life easier, and keep on doing the same work which I'm doing.
Excellent. How about you, Dima?
Well, I also enjoyed. I want to thank listeners for being patient to stay with us for such long time and to find time for this. I think it's important now to, after you heard it, to try it yourself, maybe to look for some ideas for which you can use this. It's good to have some creativity of ideas. Yeah, and yeah, and looking forward for next webinar.
Yes, I will share the link to the next webinar in the chat box. But before that, Jan, do you have any observations and comments you want to share with us?
About, sorry?
Do you have any comments and observations based on your this experience to share as a last?
Do you mean share map composition or?
No, your thoughts, your comments.
The ideas for future.
The ideas for future, yes, nothing less. No, you're stunned. Yes. Okay, Karel.
I think that we need to look on the life a little as on the game. Yes, we need to make some fun, to try to do some interesting things, and to be able to cooperate. And maybe that I would like to share with you one experience. Yes, that most depend on your activities, because also, yes, we are here, number of people who are coming from post-communist countries, yes, and in some way we were also in the past in a similar extension, and what I learned, what I recognize, that we need to try to do something for us, and then we can succeed, yes, and what we are here showing is some example, yes, and it will be nice if you can learn, but also if you can teach us, yes, because it is important to understand the situation in other countries. I have the advantage that I visited a number of African countries, and I had a little chance to understand, but I know that, for example, in Kenya, there are a number of excellent systems, excellent solution. As the best probably mobile banking system is coming from Kenya, as Ushahidi was done in Kenya. So there is a lot of things, and probably you need to also make your much more visible for the people to recognize you, yes, because this is very important, yes, that you will be active and you will try to do something for the future. And as I mentioned, yes, hackathon will continue some days, but we will never stop. We plan to continue and run to other exercise, and also if some hackathon will not be directly focused on Africa, you can join any of these activities to use Learn and to try to do something yourself.
Absolutely, Karel. And the key word here, this is not the last, this is not the first, and this is not the last of these Inspire hackathons. So we have been focusing now on Africa and of course the Kampala Inspire hackathon, but it is also, we are also working here on the Dubrovnik Inspire hackathon, which is around, the annual meant to be Inspire conference. And we will continue to also have more hackathons beyond that, developing and use the results from this hackathon into the future. So that is just to keep in mind that you will become a part of a community that will be staying alive and work into the future. Yes, I think, yes, I have one last word that I want to share with you, and that is that you don't have to be a developer, you don't have to be an expert in a technical topic. We also need those who are able to express what you need of data, what you need of information. This is really important for us to be able to improve the knowledge and improve the systems that we are serving us all with. So you don't have to be an expert. You can be one of those who have the pain points. So you are craving some information and some data. Please let us know. Join also if this is you. With that, I think we deserve a break. And thank you so much to all the speakers. Excellent presentations. They will be available online, several places afterwards. The audience, absolutely fantastic audience. Thank you so much for your interest, for your very engaged activity in the chat box. We hope to see you in the challenge. We hope to see you on SmartAfriHub. We hope to see you in a next webinar. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
See you.